All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pursuit of Relentless Podcast. You've got your host here, Elena. And I know that you all know what the fee is for the podcast. Make sure that you share it with someone if you see some value in it. And I'll remind you again at the end of the show. But I want to introduce today our guest. I've got Amanda Neely with me, and I am super excited. She runs the Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast. So I'm excited to hear how that got started. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey. What got you into business for yourself?
Yeah, I've always been an activist, right? Like watched Save the Whale documentaries, wanted to save the rainforest as a kid. And I thought the only way to like make a difference in the world is through nonprofit work. So I went into working in nonprofits after college, and I ended up learning how to do grant writing. And it was my first site visit to like a program that our grant had funded when I realized like getting money from people that have it and telling people that don't have money, here's what you need to do with it if you want this money, was not my cup of tea. I wanted to be boots on the ground in the communities with people. When I started to explore what could I do there and how it would change the world, that's when I was like, wait, entrepreneurs, business, they're doing this. And we ended up going down that route to just be like, let's see what kind of difference we can make in the world and in local communities, and everything through business. We wrote our business plan. We ended up opening a little brick and mortar coffee shop in downtown Chicago in 2011. It was a lot of fun, learned a ton about money. We actually ended up selling that business because there were some landlord issues. We were having a family. It just wasn't going to work for us. And even though it was making a difference for others, it wasn't making the difference for us that we wanted to see. And so we sold that business and we're like, what do we do next? And we thought about the difference that our financial journey had gone through over the decade of pursuing that business. We're like, we got to help other people with their financial journeys and help them start thriving businesses that they can have options like to sell or keep going with or whatever it might be because they paid attention to the numbers. That's the meandering story, the quick version.
Well, that's incredible though, because I think that you said something there that's really impactful. It wasn't making a difference for you in the way that you had wanted it to, right? I think a lot of people are like, it's so sexy to be an entrepreneur, right? But it's not, guys. It's like hard work. Hard work, and years and years and years and years of dedication before you actually start seeing the results that you're expecting. And I think that too many people go into business very short-sighted, going, oh, I'm going to try this and see, if I can do well with it. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I gave it a year. It's like, okay, we'll give it 5, give it 10, and if it's really not working for you, then get out, And I thought about actually opening a coffee shop back in the day as well, or a diner or something like that. Because A, I love coffee, and B, I'm a Red Seal pastry chef. So when I came out of pastry school, I thought it was going to be like the be all end all. I was going to own a bakery and it was going to be awesome. And then I got carpal tunnel and couldn't bake anymore professionally. And I was like, next, right? Like you kind of got to figure it out. But it was a big challenge because that was the vision that I had for my life. And then when it changed, it was like, oh, now what? And then I had the financial stress and all of that kind of stuff. And that's how I ended up where I'm at today, obviously. But it's crazy to just think like, I don't know. One thing that I think is interesting is talking about the different types of business models that are out there. And restaurant industry is one of them. And I think that I have so much respect for people that are in the restaurant industry.
Absolutely.
Because I know how hard it is. But it's super challenging to be profitable if you don't have that reputation or that regular clientele base, for instance. And I don't know, I think running a coffee shop would be really challenging.
Yeah, it's actually, we kind of learned that a little bit as we were researching, visiting other places, talking to people who owned or managed coffee shops and getting a feel for things. And I actually did a 3-month internship with another coffee shop in a totally different neighborhood so that we wouldn't be competitors, but maybe I could just learn from them. Also, like I did their repricing for them. It was free labor at the same time. And we quickly learned that the way we were going to set ourselves apart from the chains that were already in the neighborhood we wanted to be in is by being so like rooted and grounded in the community and creating that loyal customer base. And so every like decision we made, we thought through that lens of how will this build a loyal customer base that will love us and want to keep coming back to us every time they think, I want to go get a cup of coffee.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's why everyone loves Starbucks, right? Because not everyone, but like when I worked for Starbucks, it was one of the best places I've ever worked, right? They treated me like gold. They got me hooked on coffee, right? Like, I was like, dang it, I'm drinking coffee every day now. And it wasn't like a coffee. It was like a Frappuccino that had 12 pounds of sugar in it, right? And I was like, Elena, this is so bad. But it taught me a lot about how companies run their businesses and like how you can treat your employees, for example. So like they gave us great benefits. They gave us a free pound of coffee a week. And even if we didn't want it, we could donate it to charity or donate it to a customer, for example. And I was like, I really love that business model because you're building longevity, right? But their target market is high school students. And I'm like, oh, interesting, right? Mm-hmm. And you just kind of see the different avenues of how companies thrive in different areas, for example. So like maybe in Chicago, it would be like the hipsters that would come to your store, or, you know, it might be one dynamic of people, for example, or it might be super diverse and that might be your thing. And I think it's important to go, hey, this is what worked for me and this is what didn't work. Mm-hmm. And owning that and going, okay, well, I've never had a brick and mortar store, for example, but I have always looked into it and just gone, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I had a meeting today with a lady who is in the restaurant industry. And she's like, yeah, we have to up our prices because like food costs are crazy. Inflation's crazy. And I'm like, I am so glad I don't have inventory. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm like, I sell virtual products. So it's crazy to see how different business models function and like can work together really well, but also can like, I loved what you said there by like giving the labor to get the learning. Mm-hmm. And I love that in the financial industry in particular, that you can get paid to learn. And I'm like, sounds good to me because I didn't know very much about money when I first started in the industry. Nor did people want my advice because I was so bad with money. But when you find that business model that works for you and you really kind of try it out and go, okay, well, what can I create with this? Then you never know where it's going to end up. You never know if you're going to have a podcast or write a book or, you know, speak on stage in front of a bunch of people and impact a bunch of lives. But I think that when you find your forte, then you have to chase it. Like you have to chase your dreams.
Yeah. And at the same time, like when you've learned something or you've seen something really impact your life, even though it wasn't something you're getting paid for, that's a great thing to think about. Well, how could this become a business? How could I share this with others in a way that's going to benefit them? So for me, that was coffee. We actually, I hope my son, he's 4 right now, but I hope he thinks that the place is called Star Schmucks. Because that's just, I like found so much value in learning about like where coffee is coming from, how the coffee farmers are treated. Even if the employees are treated well, you got to look at the whole supply chain. And I think there's been a lot of revolution, even at some of these major chains with what they do. But at the time, 20 years ago, it just wasn't the same. And so to like teach people a little bit more about what I had learned about the power of my dollar and how it can really transform not only my community, but communities around the world. That was the most important thing to me. Right. And then that kind of has been how I've always thought about what the difference I could make in the world I was going to make. And then I'd figure out how to make money from there.
Yeah.
So even I got to share how I walked back from the brink of bankruptcy by, focusing on profitability, in addition to that impact and knowing I couldn't solve poverty from the edge of poverty myself.
Right.
And some of those lessons were directly why I decided to go into the financial industry. Cause it was like these things that have made such a difference for me, I've got to share them with others.
Yes. Oh, I got to write that down because it is so true. And I like to tell people I'll never judge them because I was probably in a worse place than they're at. Right. And I was like, no, I was not okay. I was 26 years old and $100,000 in debt. And that's not good, And it was because I hadn't really thought about my purchases. I hadn't understood the impact of what that was going to mean to me 5 or 10 years from the purchase time when I actually had to deal with it. Oh, okay, well, no, you're still paying for this truck. You're still giving them X amount of dollars in interest on that credit card, and I was like, oh, great, And it's just crazy because even like the girl at the dog park this morning, she's like, anytime I think about money, it just gives me anxiety. And I was like, that's terrible.
It is. Yep.
You shouldn't feel that way because it's a tool that we have that we can use to create this life for ourselves. But if we just live in that lack and really low place, it doesn't help us grow, like it's just, it keeps you in that place of I never enough. And that's not a good place to be in.
Nope. And then the other thing that I hear a lot from folks is when they try to have a conversation, maybe with a significant other about money, it totally just turns into finger pointing. Well, if you didn't do this, and if you hadn't have done that, and if you wouldn't keep blah, 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 it's like, oh my goodness, let's stop that. And I've actually found this is what my husband and I started doing a long time ago. Before we'd talk about money, we would start with just dreaming. Cool. If we got $1 million, what would we do with it?
Yeah.
What, if you had financial freedom, what would that look like? And just those kind of really big idea, full, no wrong answer kind of questions. Then we could look at and say, well, what are we doing that's helping us get to that dream, to those goals? And that just transformed our entire conversation around money, how we think about it, because we got to start with something fun, at least for us, being entrepreneurial, that kind of dreaming big and, shooting for the moon. That was a fun place to start from. And so then it made our conversations around money much funner as well.
I want to show you something.
Okay.
The first time that I was told to do this exercise with my husband, it took us 3.5 hours. And we still didn't finish it, but we did our top 101 list of what we're going to do when we can.
Okay.
Right? And so it's literally, and for those of you who are on audio, it's on the back of an Italian restaurant paper napkin.
Nice.
I don't know. What is that called? Like a plate.
Oh, a placemat. Yeah.
Placemat. Yeah. Thank you. But it has our top 100 list.
I love it.
And guess what? Sometimes you get to check them off, right? It's really cool to just go through and go, hey, we spent the time and we sat there and we dreamed about it. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool experience because then you're on the same page and what you're excited about. My Mother's Day gift was we cleaned out our shop and made it so that we can start working on our Mustang, right? That Kyle's had since he was 15 and we haven't done anything with, right? So just little things like that. It's okay, that's our next good job, right? That's your next investment. So we sold our car that we don't really drive. And I was like, well, we don't really need 2 vehicles. Let's just downsize, right? And then we sold our quad and our dirt bike and now we have the cash flow to do the car.
Yeah.
It's trading, but it's looking at what's important to you and going, hey, is this actually something that is serving me? Because I see it all the time. People buy things because they think it's going to make them happy.
Yep.
Oh, guys, being in debt ain't going to make you happy, right? It doesn't, it's not a good wavelength to be on. If you can avoid it because there's so many people out there that can help you. And there's so many people out there that are struggling the same way. And I was too. And obviously you had a rough go as well. But I think the education that I learned, it was so empowering. was so empowering. I sat with a girl this morning. I went for coffee with her and I literally haven't seen her in like 5+ years. And she's like, wow, you've totally changed. I was like, yeah, so have you. Like, that's awesome. Like, she's a mom now, like she's been with her man for a couple of years. And I ran into her at the trade show and I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like, we should totally have coffee. And so we did. And she's like, oh, but you're the kind of person who like likes to go out and talk to people. Cause she said she's looking for something part-time. And I was like, okay, well, you could do my business. And she's like, no, you're a people person. And I was like, but I'm not.
Right.
And nor was I. I was shy, introverted. I hated talking to people. Like, no. But then I think so I just told her, like, this is what shifted. It shifted when I learned the knowledge and went, oh, I can give that away and serve people and like help them understand how to be wealthy. Fantastic. Oh, and get paid to do that. Great. Right. Yeah. Like, how is there any better situation out there? It's just crazy. So it really shifted my mindset to just the acts of service kind of mentality versus just going, oh, people don't want my help. No, everyone wants my help. They just don't know what we do,
Yep. And so I'm totally introverted as well. And I'm very much like socially awkward. I went to a university where we used to say that the squirrels were cuter than the girls. And that the way you could tell that a boy liked you was he looked at your shoes when he talked to you rather than his own. Right. Like that's just kind of the culture of the college I went to. And so it's been such a journey, even like working at a coffee shop and talking to customers all day was very difficult for me at first. But having that sense of purpose, that sense of like, this is something I'm meant to do and it's making a big difference for the people, but also for like the little things add up to make the difference in the world, right? Every person who, adopts a different way of doing things than the way we have been doing it, that's a positive shift. Yeah. That's, starting with the man in the mirror, and see, I saw the change, I pass it on to somebody else, they pass it on. Right. And that's how movements start. That's how any social change happens. And if I see it as part of something bigger like that, of course I'm going to go after it and I'm going to, grow in empathy and in how to talk to people and make sure that I'm doing everything I can to grow personally so that more of that can happen.
Yeah. What do you do for personal development?
A lot of things.
What's your favorite? Like, what have you found the most impactful? If someone's like brand new, for instance, getting into that space and they've never really been in the personal development space before, like legit, I did not read a book past high school until I met this company. And I'm like, yeah, reading? No, I'm done with reading. Right. But once I started reading, it was life-changing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I read every day now.
I'm the daughter of a librarian, so I've always been a reader. Awesome. For me, the personal development really comes from like getting out there and doing it, picking up the phone and making a phone call before I feel like I'm ready and have rehearsed it 5 times, just kind of the learning that's more my side. But I also I don't want to leave out, I'm a very like spiritual person. It's been important to me to make sure that I'm including that as part of my journey. So things like fasting, prayer, meditation, journaling, reading sacred writings, stuff like that have been crucial and given me different insights than if I was just reading business books or just listening to gurus and stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, it was so funny. I had a conversation with my mom this morning and my dress was really staticky. And I was like, wait, I just got to find some metal and touch the metal. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, that's grounding. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, that's how energy works. Like literally. But it's just so invisible that people don't understand that all they have to do is ground. And then you won't be statically electric. I'm like, clearly I'm a little nuts today. Who knows? Like maybe my energy is just like, wah. But when you can ground and when you can, like I literally did a 5-minute meditation before this because I was like, I just gotta zone in, zone into the purpose and like why I'm doing this and what I'm excited about. And I love love, 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 love getting people access to people I think that can help them.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people out there, for instance, who don't want my help because they don't want me to know what their finances are, or they don't want me to know about the struggles they're having in their lives. And so they won't call me, but they might call you. Right. And I love that. I love that we can collaborate and we're in similar businesses. And, you know, it's cool to just kind of share each other with the world. Yeah. And just go, hey, if I can help you, let me.
Right.
It's just about asking or like accepting help.
Yeah. And with there only being about 20% of financial professionals that are women, we should totally be supporting each other, especially because I know there's so many women out there that would love to work with a female financial professional that, and they would open up in a different way than if they were chatting with a dude, you know, not that, you know, and so we have to be supporting each other and cheerleading each other on, because we need more of us to help all these women that want us and, you know, want the services that we provide.
Exactly. Well, and even just like outside of the services we provide, just empowering people to go, hey, I'm trying it, right? I am an entrepreneur. I'm going to give it a go. I may be terrible at this, but let's give it a go. You know, like let's try something new and get out of that comfort zone, because if you want the life of your dreams, you have to be uncomfortable sometimes. Yep. And that's the hardest part. But the people that are willing to do it are the ones that win. It's so important.
Yeah.
What do you see on a regular basis that you're like, man, this is a huge issue that I think like little thing, if they could shift one thing in their mindset, for example, it would help them throughout their whole savings journey. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So our podcast is called Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast. And our kind of tagline is, when conventional financial thinking doesn't get you where you want to go, you need wealth wisdom. And so many folks are just following the conventional path, trusting it'll get them where they're being told it will get them.
Yep.
And too many are waking up too late.
Yeah.
And being like, wait, I thought I was going to be at X and I'm at X minus 20% and being like, what happened? And they don't really know because they're just following blindly. You mentioned following the herd earlier, you know, like they say, if you follow the herd, you will be slaughtered. Yeah. There's so much going on that if people were paying more attention and not just following blindly, they'd probably make different decisions, but they're not paying attention. They're not taking the time to say, okay, let me, forget about conventional thinking for a second. If I were to choose for myself, if I were queen of money for the day, what would I want my money to be doing for me? Yeah. And start from there rather than starting from, here's what everyone else is doing. How can I do more of that?
Yeah.
And getting that clarity on what we want before we decide that we want what everybody else wants.
I have a saying, you know how it's like, oh, we got to keep up with the Joneses. I'm like, don't try and keep up with the Joneses because the Joneses are broke too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's crazy, but we're just trying to like show up in a certain way. And it's like, guys, you know what's way cooler? Actually having money.
Yeah.
Actually having it, actually paying cash for that car that you want and giving yourself the pat on the back when you earned enough money to go out and purchase that for yourself. Because how much more gratifying is it for you, for example, to go out and buy your dream car in cash because you saved up every single penny and then you can enjoy it, versus just going, oh, I'm going to go get it right now. And then I'm going to be paying for it for the next 8 years. Yep. Why wouldn't you just save the money? Like, how much more gratifying is it if you can give yourself that pat on the back going, hey, I earned this. Right? I earned that. It's not about the monthly payments. And I think that that's one of the biggest misconceptions in the financial spectrum of like what people are doing with their money. Most people spend at least 50% on a vehicle payment, like 50% of their income. It's, well, maybe a little bit less. Maybe like 30 to 50% of their income they're spending on a car payment, or like including their insurance and their fuel and stuff like that. And I'm just sitting there going, isn't there better things to spend your money on? Really? Like retiring? That's a thing. But I've noticed that in Canada, at least, it's people think that they're going to get to 65 and be taken care of. It's not like that at all. Like you have to save money. You have to, and that's like being super blunt, but you have to save money because yes, the government might give you a little bit. yes, your company might give you a little bit, but the rest comes from you. And you can't tell me that someone who's making $200,000 a year, living a good life, can't save at least some of it,
Right. Yeah.
But then they're like, oh, I'm going to retire early. It's great. Well, do you know what your pension's going to be? Right. Oh, well, it should be similar to what I'm making today. Then you do the math and their $90,000 a year job's going to pay them $21,000 in retirement.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, because you can't even save your money today on 200,000, for example, but you're expecting to live on 40. Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to, that's the life that you're signing up for, though. So if you're open to saving a little bit more, looking at options, then you can really dig into those conversations and go, what really matters to you? If it's the car, keep the car, right? I had a client the other day call me and she's like, I'm in a ton of debt, but she has a camper and all of the toys. And I was like, okay, well, you own assets. So if you want to have assets growing for you and compounding, because understanding compound interest is a big thing, then you sell those assets. And she's like, but that's our thing. I'm like, then you keep those and you start, maybe you do it every 3 months instead of every month, and then take that extra little money and drop it on your debt and keep your stuff, right? Because if that's what really matters to you, then do that. But I think it's really important to have those kind of conversations. Like I had a client who wants to buy a house, for instance, and it's like, you gotta save money and retirement. And I'm like, yep. It doesn't just happen, right? Like you have to plan for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I talk with so many folks. I get the opportunity. They're just starting out there and they're just turned 18 and they're in their early 20s. And one of the things I love to make sure to share with them is that the sooner you can figure out your unique combination of enjoying life now and making sure you can enjoy life later. 100% of your friends are doing 100% of enjoy life now. Yes. But if you can even do 1% toward enjoy life later in your 20s, you're going to be head and shoulders above. And if you could do 1%, you could probably do 3%. And if you could do 3%, you could probably do 5%. Like figure it out, see what you can do. But don't wait till you're in your 30s or 40s or God forbid 50s, which some people do, to get started on this. It's never too late to start, but also it's such a privilege when we get to talk with folks who are much younger and help them get this side of their finances at least started. And then they're going to be able to grow so much more quickly, get that compounding interest working for them, but also have that personal development that they've got the habit going when they're young and they can build on that habit rather than trying to start a new habit when they're in their 40s or 50s.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think there's a big misconception also around people thinking that they're the only ones out there that are struggling.
Right.
And just so you guys know, you're not the only ones that are struggling. Every single person is struggling with something, right? Whether that's money or not. And I think that when we have that knowing that, okay, well, this is the thing that I'm having a hard time with. If that's money, well, how do you solve that problem? A, increase cash flow, right? B, lower expenses. C, ask for help. Just ask for help. See who can help you. Maybe you're paying for something you don't actually need. How are you supposed to know if you don't know, if you're not a professional? So I see these people in their 40s and their 50s who haven't started saving yet. And I look at them and I go, okay, what are you trying to build? What lifestyle do you want to have? Because sometimes they'll be fine living in their camper for the 20 years that they're in retirement. But then what? Right? Then what? How much is that retirement home going to be? Right? And little things like that. So just know that you're not alone. You're not alone. And there's a lot of people out there that are struggling. And I think the thing that they feel the most is ashamed that they haven't started saving earlier. But don't feel that way. Just start saving now. Right? Whether that's $25 a month or $50 a month or whatever it is, something is better than nothing.
Yeah. I like to think of it this way in percentages. So if you're currently living off $1,000 a month, you're not going to miss 1%, $10. You could move that to a savings account you're not going to miss it. If you're living off of $10,000 a month or per month, you're not going to miss $100, right? Like it's really simple to start with 1%, start building that habit. And now for those that are going in the negative every month, there might be some bigger adjustments to make, right? Where your expenses are currently more than your income. But for those that are kind of at least paycheck to paycheck, I often like to challenge people. What if you just move that 1%? Every time you get paid, 1% is going to go somewhere that you're going to try really, really hard not to touch it, and hopefully not touch it. Like it's at a different bank where you got to travel to it. You don't have a debit card. It's hard to transfer, all those things. And from everyone that I've given that challenge to, and they've taken it seriously, they haven't missed it. They haven't missed that 1%. And then they can start building off of that.
And what do you think that gives them other than money saved?
Yeah, well, it gives them the habit that they can build on top of and increase to 2%, 3%, and it builds their confidence.
Yes, that's what I was.
That they can do it. Yeah.
The confidence, because when you can save, then you're a saver and you have the identity of a saver. And you're like, no, I'm not a spender. I'm a saver. I like to save money. It's really attractive. People that are saving money, like if you're single, for example, and you want to attract a spouse that is wealthy, guess what you have to do? Have wealthy habits and you'll attract that person, right? If you want to be someone who's living their dream life, you have to be willing to get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to say no to that one night out a week with your friends just to save that $50 or $100 that you would have spent, right? But people are like, it's $50. I'm like, yeah, but $50 now is $250 later. And that $250 that you spent is now thousands. I'm like, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's gotta be that long-term thinking with like the small actions to make it happen. And kind of being able to like think long-term, think big picture, go, dream a little bit, but then bring it down to what's that little step you could take today? What's that 1% adjustment? If you've heard of the Kaizen principle, and then you make that happen and you come back a month, a couple of weeks later, and you see, okay, what's the next 1%? What's the next little thing that I'm not even going to notice I'm doing, but that can be a habit that I'm building.
So I want you to talk to the ladies in general now.
Okay. Yes.
So there's going to be a whole bunch of women, millennial women in particular, that listen to my show. Okay?
Good. Hi, guys.
So what advice would you give them if they're just getting started in their savings journey and they're just maybe looking at opening their own business, or they've just started their own business? What advice could you give them on a generic note?
Yeah. I think the most important question you can ask, I shared earlier, what do you want your money to do for you? Pretend you're queen of money for the day. What do you want it to do? And don't think products, think qualities.
Yeah.
Things like, do you want to pay taxes on it? Or do you not want to? Do you, do you want it to grow? Do you want it to shrink? Do you want, be very simple, very basic.
Yeah.
And then if you've got that list of qualities, then you can go and find what products match those qualities. Anything that is marketed to you in terms of the thing you could do with your money, you're able to say, does it meet these qualities? And if so, maybe I'll, consider it more. If it doesn't, then this isn't for me and I'm going to look at something else.
It's investing versus spending. There's a big difference. When you're investing in yourself, or you're investing in your business, or you're investing in your future, that's a good feeling. Whether that's reading a book or saving $10 because you made coffee at home for you and your spouse, right? Little things like that. If you save that $10, then you're a saver and you have a saver's mindset, right? Versus, so my Freedom 35 challenge, which I'm putting in my book, but is on my Instagram page at Pursuit of Relentless, if you guys want to check it out. It is super fun. And one of the things that's on it is screenshotting your spending, right? So that's just a mental capture of where you're at. And it's every day for 35 days. And it's just building that habit of going, okay, I know where I spent my money today. right? Instead of going, oh, where do you spend your money? And people going, I don't know. Right. But it happens. And sometimes you spend it and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I spent $14 at Tim Hortons the other day. Or, whatever it is, pick your poison, right? I like coffee. I don't love Tim Hortons, but I did a meeting there. So anyways, it's figuring out what matters to you and then allocating your money where your mouth is. So if you're saying, I want eco-friendly, then stop buying non-eco-friendly things or supporting companies that aren't eco-friendly.
Right.
It's not supporting companies that you don't align with. It's going, okay, I'm going to get it from a local. I'm going to get it from this place instead of this place because I'd rather support my local community, for example. If the product is better quality and worth it, I'm going to support local, right? If it's something I can't get in town, okay, I get outsourcing. But it's just, it's figuring out what matters to you and then saving for it and going, okay, well, factor in inflation. Do people do that? No, because they don't understand it most of the time, right? Some people do, and they understand how it works and how it compounds against us if we're not getting ahead of it. But it's the little tips, the savings, the be thrifty. So screenshot your spending and be thrifty are two of the challenges. And being thrifty is doing something to save money today. And when you get in that habit for yourself, holy cow, it's powerful. And it would be sometimes when I'd normally go to McDonald's and grab a coffee, or because it's on the way to the dog park, right? And it's easy. But instead, I'd spend the 5 minutes and make a cup of coffee and take it with me. So I'd screenshot that and go, boom, save myself $2. Yay. Or I bought something that was on sale instead of, paying full price or whatever it is. And I thought that that was one of the most impactful things that I did outside of my personal development, with my reading and stuff like that, the meditation and the spiritual side of things. But I really loved those two, the screenshot your spending and be thrifty.
Yeah. And then kind of as people take those smaller steps, take those actions, start to see results. That's often, I feel like, especially the like challenge I gave of think of what you want your money to do for you. I write those attributes that can seem so foreign for folks. So that's when I like to talk about that, making sure you're choosing the right financial ally. I don't like to call them professionals because that's passing off something like you can't do your own legal work. You hire an attorney, right, to like review a contract or draft it for you. But with finances, you can do so much yourself. You don't need a professional to do it for you. You need an ally to ask you the right questions to help you. Here's a list of potential attributes. Which ones do make sense for you? Things like that. When so many people, I feel like they get the nuts and bolts down of maybe, budgeting, managing their spending, breaking the paycheck to paycheck cycle. And then they go, okay, now how do I learn what's next? Do I just Google and listen to what's on the internet? Do I go to my local investment firm and just do whatever they tell me to do? What do I do? And that's when I love asking people to consider working with someone who's not going to tell you what to do, but is going to empower you to make a good decision and help educate you and bring you the right resources and tell you both sides of the story, help you weigh the pros and cons. And I feel like the best people in our industry to work with are those that who do that rather than just say, give me your money and I'll make sure it grows for you.
It's mission before commission.
Yes.
Every time. That's our motto, mission before commission. No family left behind, right? Like when you're going out there and you're putting out the content to the world, you're going, okay, I'm going to help the people who are homeless and I'm going to help the people that are wealthy and I'm going to help every single person in between because everyone deserves help, right? And the financial industry, guys, we know it's a doozy, right? There are good advisors, there are bad advisors, there are good allies, there's people that aren't your allies. And I think that it's important to be able to strategize and have those conversations. Like I have one of my clients right now going, oh, but I don't need that much life insurance. And I'm like, well, did you consider the fact that you have a 2-year-old, right? And you have to cover their expenses if you were to pass away, or else that's on the person that is going to get your kid. And I'm like, Oh, goodness. So she's like, okay, well, I need to lower my expenses. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's have a strategy session. Like, let's talk about it. And I think that people can get lots of new ideas just by kind of just talking about it. And it's like, well, this is what I'm planning. Great. I love it. And I think that there's a misconception that everyone's going to just be like, don't spend your money. Well, yeah, don't spend your money on stuff you don't have to, but be strategic with it. Be really strategic with it, because you earned that money, right? So you want to make sure it's working for you, like you were saying.
Yeah. Enjoy life now and later. It doesn't have to be an either or.
Oh, so good. I love that. Okay. I want people to get more access to you. I know we've mentioned the podcast, but where would you like people to reach out to you if they need your help?
Yeah. So check out the podcast. And then we have a framework that we use that helps to have conversations with yourself and with financial allies, significant others, professionals. We call it the STILL method. STILL is an acronym. It starts with set your sights, go, those big dreams like we talked about earlier. And one of the L in the STILL is one of those is look for the 1% adjustment. So we have this like framework to help people have those bigger idea conversations before they even talk with a professional. You can get that at stillmethod.com. And then from there, I'll have my contact information and how to schedule a call with me if you're ready to like take that next step and have a conversation with somebody that doesn't know you yet to get to know your perspective and things.
I love that. Yeah. So where are you located, just so people know?
Oh, yeah. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. I work with folks all over the US. Unfortunately, if you're in Canada, be sure you reach out to Elena. I won't be able to help you.
I'm your gal. Yeah, that's perfect because I'm always have people in the US that I need to refer out. So
great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I do appreciate your time. I know everyone got a ton of value out of today. And I love that 1%. Just the 1% difference can change everything. And it's just building those habits and stacking those habits and understanding that they do compound. So
yeah.
Either for you or against you, right?
Right. And then I'm looking forward to having you on our show in the near future. So everybody make sure that you subscribe to our podcast so that you see Elena on there as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening today. I hope you took a ton of notes and you reach out to Amanda. I really enjoyed today's conversation, and I think that it's a conversation that needs to be had. So thanks for listening. I do appreciate the loyal listeners that are on. And if you got value out of today's podcast, make sure you share it with someone else or share it on your social media. Shoot us any questions that you may have. We'd be happy to help. So that's it for today. Pursuit of Relentless, signing out.